The council chamber was a marvel of engineering and diplomacy. The vast spherical room could accommodate representatives from hundreds of different species, each with their own environmental requirements. Atmospheric zones shifted seamlessly from the methane-rich sections favored by the Kalari to the high-pressure, aquatic environments needed by the Naridi. Delegation Ambassador Rodriguez walked beside Admiral Chen as they approached the human delegation's assigned seating area. The floating platform adjusted automatically to Earth-normal gravity and atmosphere, a small courtesy that felt increasingly hollow given the political climate. Around them, alien delegates filled their respective areas. Sarah recognized many of the species from diplomatic briefings, but seeing them in person was still unsettling. The Drakari representative stood nearly 3 meters tall, its reptilian features and predatory eyes tracking every movement in the chamber. The Zephyrian collective consciousness manifested as a cluster of crystalline beings that hummed in harmonious frequencies. "Remember," Rodriguez whispered, "no matter what happens in here, remain calm. We're being watched by every major power in the galaxy." The chamber's central area housed the Arbitration Council, 5 ancient species that had founded the galactic government millennia ago. Today they would oversee the vote on humanity's membership application. The head arbitrator, a flowing energy being known as Speaker Illuminus, began the proceedings with a voice that resonated through the chamber's translation systems. "We gather today to consider the application of the species known as humans from the Sol system. Their request for full membership status has been reviewed by the appropriate committees." Sarah watched as various alien delegates activated their communication devices. The chamber filled with a subtle cacophony of sounds as hundreds of species conducted whispered conversations in languages that human ears couldn't even detect. The formal presentation began with highlights of humanity's technological achievements and diplomatic efforts. Rodriguez had spent months preparing these materials, showcasing Earth's scientific breakthroughs, cultural diversity, and peaceful intentions. The holographic displays showed human cities, space stations, and exploration vessels, but Sarah could sense the mood in the chamber. Too many delegates seemed disinterested or actively hostile. The Velkari ambassador's aquatic form pulsed with agitated colors. Several smaller species that humanity had hoped would support them appeared to be aligning with the larger powers. When the presentation ended, Speaker Illuminus called for formal statements from major council members. The Drakari representative was the first to respond, its massive form rising to address the chamber. "Honored arbitrators, while we acknowledge the rapid advancement of the human species, we must consider the implications of their inclusion in our galactic community." The translation system gave the Drakari's words a cold, calculated tone. "In the 50 Earth years since first contact, humans have demonstrated troubling patterns of aggressive expansion and militarization." Rodriguez leaned forward, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. This was exactly what they'd feared. The Drakari continued. "Their homeworld's history is marked by countless wars, resource conflicts, and territorial disputes. Even now, as they seek membership among us, they maintain the largest military fleet of any candidate species in recorded history." Murmurs of agreement rippled through several sections of the chamber. Sarah felt her jaw tighten as she watched the carefully orchestrated character assassination of her species. The Zephyrian collective spoke next, their harmonized voices creating an eerie echo effect. "The humans demonstrate technological advancement at a rate that suggests they prioritize power over wisdom. Their artificial intelligence development proceeds without sufficient ethical constraints. Their genetic modification programs show concerning militaristic applications." Each accusation struck like a physical blow. Sarah knew that many of these claims had been taken out of context or represented defensive measures humanity had developed in response to initial alien contact protocols. But in this chamber, surrounded by species that had already made up their minds, context didn't seem to matter. Ambassador Rodriguez requested permission to respond, but was denied. The arbitrators explained that the formal rebuttal period would come after all major powers had presented their positions. The Thuvalan representative, whose species was known for philosophical pacifism, delivered what felt like the final blow. "We have observed human cultural exports through their entertainment and historical records. Their literature glorifies conflict. Their recreational activities simulate warfare. Even their sports often involve ritualized combat. This is not a species ready for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship. As the speakers continued, Sarah realized that this wasn't really about membership at all. The Council had already decided to contain humanity before the diplomatic mission had even begun. This was a show trial, a formal justification for what they'd already planned. Speaker Illuminus finally called for the formal vote. The chamber's massive display showed the tally as it progressed. Red indicators for opposition began dominating the board immediately. A few green lights appeared from smaller species that humanity had established trade relationships with, but they were vastly outnumbered. By a vote of 847 to 23 with 31 abstentions, the Galactic Council denies membership to the human species, Speaker Illuminus announced. Furthermore, Resolution 2847C is hereby enacted, establishing a containment zone around the Sol system and its immediate colonial expansion area. The words echoed through the chamber like a death sentence. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face as the implications sank in. Not only had humanity been rejected, but they were being actively imprisoned within their own small corner of space. Rodriguez stood slowly, her diplomatic composure finally cracking. Honored arbitrators, the human species formally protests this decision. We have met every requirement for membership and have operated in good faith throughout these negotiations. The decision is final, Speaker Illuminus replied without emotion. Human vessels will have 30 standard days to return to the containment zone. Any expansion beyond the designated boundaries will be considered an act of aggression against the galactic community. As alien delegates began filing out of the chamber, many avoiding eye contact with the human delegation, Sarah felt a strange calm settling over her. The fear and uncertainty of the past weeks was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. Clarity. Rodriguez turned to her, tears of frustration visible in her eyes. I'm sorry, Sarah, I thought we had a chance. I really believed diplomacy would work. Don't apologize, Maria, you did everything possible. Sarah's voice was steady, almost cold. They were never going to accept us. This was just a formality to make themselves feel better about caging us. As they walked back toward their ship, Sarah activated a secure communication device. The message was brief and coded, but its meaning was clear to anyone monitoring Earth's military frequencies. Diplomatic mission failed. Implement Prometheus Protocol. Across the galaxy, hidden deep within Earth's most secure facilities, other messages were being sent to research stations that officially didn't exist, to military commanders who had spent years preparing for this exact scenario, to scientists whose projects had been deemed too dangerous for public knowledge. The Galactic Council had just made the biggest mistake in their civilization's history. They thought they were caging dangerous animals. Instead, they had just declared war on the most adaptable, creative, and ruthlessly determined species the galaxy had ever encountered, and humanity was about to show them exactly why they should have been afraid. 6 months after the Council's betrayal, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the depths of the Titan research facility, watching the final preparations for humanity's response. The underground complex had been carved from the ice moon's interior over the past decade, officially listed as a deep space communication array in public records. In reality, it housed some of the most dangerous research projects in human history. Final systems check complete. Dr. Vasquez reported her lead technician, Dr. James Park. All quantum resonance chambers are online and stable. Elena nodded, her eyes focused on the massive device at the chamber's center. Project Prometheus had begun 15 years ago as a theoretical exercise in faster-than-light communication. When the Galactic Council had first made contact, the project had been quietly redirected towards something far more ambitious and terrifying. Any word from the perimeter scouts? She asked, checking her chronometer. The Council had established patrol routes around human space, monitoring compliance with their containment order. What they didn't know was that humanity had been tracking their movements with sensor networks they couldn't detect. 3 Drakari cruisers maintaining standard patrol pattern. The Zephyrian monitoring station is operating normally. No indication they suspect anything unusual. Park replied. Elena allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had made a fundamental error in their assessment of human nature. They saw humanity's rapid advancement and assumed it was driven by crude aggression. They never considered that humans were capable of patience, of long-term strategic thinking that spanned decades rather than years. The Prometheus Protocol had been designed from the beginning as humanity's insurance policy. While diplomats smiled and negotiated in good faith, Earth's best scientists had been preparing for the possibility that peaceful coexistence might be impossible. They had studied every piece of alien technology they could access, reverse-engineered council communication systems, and developed capabilities that their would-be captors couldn't imagine. Dr. Vasquez, "We're receiving the authentication signal from Luna Base," announced communications specialist Lisa Chen. "All other Prometheus sites are reporting ready status." Elena took a deep breath. Across human space, 17 hidden facilities were preparing to simultaneously activate. Each one housed a different component of humanity's response to galactic betrayal. Some contained weapons that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Others held surveillance systems capable of monitoring council activities across dozens of star systems. A few housed something even more dangerous, the means to turn the galaxy's own infrastructure against itself. "Patch me through to the command network," Elena ordered. Within seconds, her voice was being transmitted through quantum-encrypted channels to every Prometheus facility, every human military vessel, and every colony world. The message was simple but carried the weight of species survival. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, Prometheus Primary. Authorization code Omega 77. All stations initiate Phase 1 protocols. God help us all." The chamber erupted into controlled activity as technicians began the activation sequence. The massive quantum resonance device began to glow with an eerie blue light, its harmonic vibrations creating a sound that seemed to bypass the ears and resonate directly in the bones. Elena moved to her primary control station, watching as data streams began flowing in from across the galaxy. For years, humanity had been secretly deploying nanoscale monitoring devices during diplomatic visits and trade negotiations. These microscopic spies had been gathering intelligence on council infrastructure, military capabilities, and most importantly, the location of critical systems that kept galactic civilization functioning. "Phase 1 telemetry coming online," Park reported. "We have successful infiltration of the Drakari hegemony's primary communication hub. Zephyrian collective networks are accessible. Felkari military command frequencies are compromised." Elena nodded, checking her displays. The scope of what they were attempting was staggering. While the Council believed they had contained a primitive species within a small region of space, humanity had been secretly mapping the entire galactic infrastructure. Every major communication relay, every trade route, every military installation had been cataloged and analyzed. "Initiate Surveillance Protocol Omega," Elena commanded. Across the galaxy, dormant monitoring systems came online. In the Drakari capital, nanoscale devices began transmitting real-time feeds from their military command centers. Zephyrian collective consciousness networks, previously thought to be impossible to monitor, suddenly became as transparent as glass. The Velkari Empire's secure communications channels were revealed to be anything but. Within minutes, Elena's facility was receiving intelligence data that would have taken the Council's own intelligence services years to gather. Fleet positions, patrol routes, strategic planning sessions, resource allocation meetings, all of it was suddenly available to human analysts. "My God," whispered Dr. Park, staring at his displays. "The Thuvalan pacifist fleet has weapon systems that could sterilize entire planets. The Corvani Collective has been conducting illegal experiments on sentient species. The Ashanti neutrality is a complete fabrication. They've been supplying weapons to 3 different conflicts." Elena felt a cold satisfaction, as the true nature of their enlightened galactic neighbors was revealed. The same species that had condemned humanity for being too aggressive were themselves engaged in activities that would have horrified human military ethicists. "Elena, you need to see this," called communications specialist Chen. "We're intercepting planning sessions from the Council arbitrators themselves. They're not just planning to maintain our containment, they're discussing elimination protocols." The blood drained from Elena's face as she read the translated documents. The Council wasn't content to simply cage humanity. They saw human technological advancement as an existential threat that needed to be permanently neutralized. Within 5 years, they planned to implement population reduction measures that would reduce humanity to a pre-industrial state. "They're planning genocide," Elena said quietly. "They want to turn us into a curiosity, a primitive species they can study and control." The revelation changed everything. This was no longer about breaking free from an unjust quarantine. This was about species survival against aliens who had already decided that humanity had no right to exist as equals in the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving priority transmissions from Earth Command, Chen reported. Admiral Chen is requesting immediate conference with all Prometheus sites. Elena activated the secure channel and Admiral Sarah Chen's image appeared on the main display. The Admiral's expression was grim, but there was something else there. A cold determination that Elena recognized in herself. Dr. Vasquez, I assume you've seen the intelligence reports about Council elimination protocols? Yes, Admiral. It changes our operational parameters significantly. It changes everything, Sarah replied. We're no longer planning a breakout from containment. We're planning the complete restructuring of galactic power. The Council made a mistake when they decided to cage us. They made a bigger mistake when they decided to eliminate us. Now they're going to learn what happens when you threaten humanity's survival. Elena looked around her facility, at the scientists and technicians who had spent years preparing for this moment. They weren't soldiers, but they had just become the front line of humanity's war for survival. What are your orders, Admiral? Sarah's smile was cold as winter space. Initiate Phase 2, Doctor. It's time to show the galaxy what humans do when they're cornered. As Elena began issuing the commands that would fundamentally alter the balance of galactic power, she couldn't help but think that the Council had been right about one thing. Humanity was dangerous. They just had no idea how dangerous they were about to become. Captain Marcus Webb felt the familiar sensation of his ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel as the Defiant Hope emerged from quantum space. Through the bridge viewport, the Kepler 442 system stretched before them, its twin suns casting long shadows across the asteroid belt, where humanity's first deep space mining operation had been established 3 years ago. All stations report ready. Captain, announced his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park. Stealth systems are functioning normally. We're invisible to Council sensors. Marcus nodded, his attention focused on the tactical display showing the approaching Council enforcement fleet. 6 massive vessels, 2 Drakari dreadnoughts, 3 Velkari battlecruisers, and a Zephyrian collective ship that pulsed with an unsettling organic light. They had come to shut down humanity's mining operations and force the colonists back within the containment zone. Time to contact? Marcus asked. 47 minutes until they reached the mining platforms, replied the tactical officer. The evacuation ships launched 6 hours ago. All civilians are clear of the engagement zone. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Council thought they were about to conduct a simple enforcement action against helpless human miners. Instead, they were walking into the first demonstration of humanity's true capabilities. Communications? Any word from our friends in the asteroid field? Sleeping giants are positioned and ready, sir. All automated defense platforms report green status. The sleeping giants were humanity's answer to the Council's superior numbers and firepower. Each asteroid in the belt had been carefully hollowed out and equipped with advanced AI systems, quantum weaponry, and self-repair capabilities. From the outside, they looked like ordinary space rocks. In reality, they were autonomous weapons platforms that could coordinate attacks with devastating precision. Captain, we're receiving transmission from the lead Drakari vessel, the communications officer reported. Put them through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the imposing form of Admiral Korath, the Drakari commander who had personally overseen the implementation of humanity's containment. His reptilian features were set in what humans had learned to recognize as contemptuous satisfaction. Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council Resolution 2847C. Withdraw immediately to the Sol Containment Zone, or face the consequences. Marcus stepped forward, his expression calm. Admiral Korath, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the United Earth Starship Defiant Hope. I'm afraid I can't comply with your order. The system has claimed territory of the human race. Korath's eyes narrowed dangerously. You dare defy the Council's authority? Your species has been judged unfit for galactic citizenship. Return to your cage, little ape, before I decide to make an example of you. The only one making an example here today will be me, Admiral. I suggest you reconsider your approach. The Drakari Admiral's response was predictable. Pathetic human bravado. You pilot one ship against my entire fleet. Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Marcus smiled coldly. We'll see about that. All ships, this is Captain Webb. Initiate Protocol Pandora. Show them what humanity has been building while they thought we were caged. The asteroid field suddenly came alive. What had appeared to be lifeless rocks began moving with purpose, their surfaces opening to reveal weapon systems that Council science couldn't classify. Energy signatures that registered off their sensors appeared as hundreds of hidden platforms powered up simultaneously. "What sorcery is this?" Korath demanded, his composed demeanor cracking as his sensors detected the true nature of the asteroid field. "It's called preparation, Admiral. While your council was congratulating itself on containing the dangerous humans, we were preparing for the day you decided containment wasn't enough." Marcus gestured to his tactical officer. "Fire." The space around the council fleet erupted into chaos. Quantum disruptor beams lanced out from seemingly empty asteroids, striking the alien vessels with pinpoint accuracy. The weapons had been designed specifically to counter Council shield technology, using humanity's detailed analysis of their defensive systems. The lead Drakari dreadnought shuddered under the assault, its massive shields flickering as they struggled to adapt to the unknown energy signatures. The Valkyrie cruisers attempted to return fire, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human platforms. Each asteroid was equipped with advanced stealth technology that made them nearly invisible once they went into combat mode. "Impossible." Korath snarled as his flagship's shields failed completely. "How do you possess such advanced technology?" "You made two critical errors, Admiral," Marcus replied, watching as the automated weapons platforms continued their coordinated assault. "First, you assumed that containment would actually contain us. Second, you underestimated human ingenuity. We've had 15 years to study your technology, analyze your weaknesses, and prepare for this moment." The Zephyrian collective ship was the first to fall, its organic structure unable to adapt to the quantum weapon's unique properties. The vessel simply dissolved, its crystalline components scattering like glitter across space. The Valkyrie cruisers lasted longer, but their aquatic crew was no match for weapons that could drain their life support systems through their own shields. "This is Admiral Korath to all Council forces," the Drakari commander broadcast on an emergency frequency. "Humanity possesses unknown weapons technology. Request immediate reinforcement from Sector Command." Marcus activated his own communication system, broadcasting on all Council frequencies. "This is Captain Marcus Webb speaking to the Galactic Council. Today's engagement should serve as a clear message. Humanity will not be contained, controlled, or eliminated. We claim the right to expand, explore, and exist as equals in this galaxy." The remaining Drakari dreadnought attempted to retreat, but found itself surrounded by previously invisible human vessels. The Defiant Hope had been joined by two sister ships, each equipped with the same advanced stealth and weapons systems. "Your threat has been noted and recorded," Korath said through gritted teeth. "The Council will respond with overwhelming force. You cannot stand against the combined might of dozens of civilizations." "You're right about one thing, Admiral. We can't stand against dozens of civilizations in direct combat." Marcus's expression became predatory. "That's why we're not going to fight them directly." Before Korath could respond, his ship's systems began failing one by one. Navigation, weapons, life support, everything started shutting down as nanoscale viruses, hidden within the quantum weapons energy signatures, began rewriting his ship's computer systems. "What have you done?" the Admiral demanded. "We've introduced your ship's AI to some human-designed modifications," Marcus replied casually. "Your vessel is now broadcasting the complete technical specifications of Drakari military systems to every intelligence agency in the galaxy. Your shield frequencies, weapon signatures, command codes, everything. Similar transmissions were going out from the other Council ships. Years of careful preparation had allowed humanity to develop cyber warfare techniques that could penetrate even the most secure alien systems. The Council's own ships were now revealing their deepest military secrets to anyone with the equipment to receive the broadcasts. This engagement is concluded, Marcus announced. Admiral Korath, you and your surviving crew will be permitted to return to Council space. I suggest you inform your superiors that humanity is no longer their prisoner. We are their equal, whether they acknowledge it or not. As the defeated Council vessels limped away from the asteroid field, Marcus received confirmation from Earth Command. Similar encounters were taking place across the containment zone as human forces revealed capabilities that had been hidden for years. The galaxy was about to learn that caging humanity had been the worst mistake in Council history. The prey had become the predator, and the hunt was just beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Speaker Illuminus struggled to maintain order as alien delegates filled the chamber with panicked communications in dozens of languages. The formal protocols that had governed galactic politics for millennia seemed inadequate to address the crisis that humanity had unleashed. Admiral Korath stood before the assembly, his scaled hide bearing the scars of his encounter with human forces. The proud Drakari commander had returned to Council space with only one of his 6 ships intact, and that vessel had been so compromised by human cyber warfare that it had to be completely isolated from all networks. Honored arbitrators, Korath began, his voice carrying a humiliation that was painful to witness. I must report that the human containment has failed catastrophically. They possess military technology that exceeds our current understanding. A wave of agitated sounds swept through the chamber. The Thuvalan delegate, whose pacifist philosophy had been shaken by recent revelations, spoke first. This cannot be possible. Our intelligence reports indicated that human technology was centuries behind our own. How could they develop such capabilities while under observation? They were never truly contained, Korath admitted, the words tasting like poison. Our monitoring systems detected only what they wanted us to see. While we watched their public colonies and mining operations, they were building a hidden infrastructure that spans dozens of systems. The Velkari Emperor's representative surfaced from her aquatic chamber, her tentacles agitated with barely controlled fear. The humans demonstrated weapons that could penetrate our best shields. Their cyber warfare capabilities compromised our most secure systems. But worse than that, they have been watching us. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed detailed schematics of Velkari military installations, complete with guard rotation security codes and the personal habits of commanding officers. This intelligence could only have been gathered through years of systematic surveillance. They know our capabilities, our weaknesses, our strategic plans. They have been preparing for this conflict while we believed them to be primitive captives. The Zephyrian Collective's harmonized voice resonated through the chamber with an unusual dissonance. The consciousness reports deep infiltration of our communication networks. The humans have access to our collective thoughts during strategic planning sessions. They know our intentions before we fully form them ourselves. Panic was beginning to set in among the smaller species that had supported humanity's containment. The Corvani representative, speaking for their 3-species alliance, voiced what many were thinking. If the humans can defeat Drakari dreadnoughts and penetrate Zephyrian collective consciousness, what chance do our defensive forces have? We may have created an enemy that we cannot defeat. Speaker Illuminus attempted to restore order with increasing desperation. The situation is serious but not beyond resolution. We must coordinate our response and bring the full might of the Council to bear against this threat. What threat? The voice came from the chamber's entrance as Ambassador Rodriguez walked calmly into the assembly. She was accompanied by 2 figures that no one recognized, humans wearing uniforms that seemed to absorb light itself. The chamber erupted into chaos as alien security forces moved to intercept the unexpected arrival, only to find themselves unable to approach. Some invisible barrier seemed to surround the human delegation, causing weapons to malfunction and shield generators to overload. Honored arbitrators, Rodriguez said with perfect diplomatic calm, the United Nations of Earth request permission to address this emergency session. This is unprecedented, roared the Drakari High Command representative. Humans are not members of this council. They have no right to appear before this assembly. Rodriguez smiled coldly. I think recent events have demonstrated that human rights are not dependent on council recognition. We are here to discuss terms. Terms? Speaker Illuminus struggled to process this development. What terms could you possibly offer? You have violated council law, attacked our forces, and threatened galactic peace. Actually, we've done nothing more than defend ourselves from an illegal containment and a planned genocide. Rodriguez replied, Yes, we know about the elimination protocols. We know about the population reduction plans. We know about everything. One of Rodriguez's companions stepped forward. I am Director Harrison of Earth's Strategic Intelligence Division. For the past 18 months, we have been monitoring every communication, every meeting, every private conversation among council leadership. We know which species supported our containment, which ones advocated for our elimination, and which ones simply didn't care about justice. The chamber fell silent except for the ambient sounds of life support systems. The implications of Harrison's words were staggering. We also know about activities that various council members would prefer to keep secret, Rodriguez continued. Illegal weapons testing, unauthorized genetic experiments, systematic exploitation of pre-spaceflight civilizations. The list is quite extensive. She activated her own holographic display, showing evidence of various council species engaging in activities that violated their own laws. The Thuvalan pacifist fleet's secret weapons research, the Velkari Empire's slave breeding programs, the Zephyrian collective's forced assimilation of smaller hive minds. How did you? Began the Thuvalan delegate before falling silent. The same way we've been watching you plan our extinction, Harrison replied. We learned long ago that the galaxy was not the enlightened community you pretended it to be. We prepared accordingly. Rodriguez moved to the center of the chamber, her presence commanding despite being surrounded by dozens of hostile alien species. Earth comes before this council with a simple proposition. We will not be contained, we will not be controlled, and we will definitely not be eliminated. However, we are prepared to coexist. Coexist? The word came from Admiral Korath with undisguised contempt. After what you have done? After the humiliation you have inflicted upon the Council's forces? We defended ourselves against an unprovoked attack, Rodriguez replied firmly. But we could have done much more. We could have destroyed your fleet completely. We could have crippled your homeworld's infrastructure. We could have released all the surveillance data we've gathered on every council member simultaneously. The threat hung in the air like a physical presence. Every delegate understood that humanity apparently had the capability to follow through on these promises. What do you want? Speaker Illuminus asked quietly. First, immediate cessation of all containment efforts and recognition of humanity's right to expand freely within unclaimed territories, Rodriguez began. Second, formal acknowledgement that the human species possesses full sovereignty and is not subject to council authority unless we choose to join voluntarily. And third, prompted the speaker. Rodriguez's smile was predatory. Third, we want a seat on this council, not as applicants begging for admission, but as equals with full voting rights and veto power. The chamber erupted again, but this time Rodriguez didn't wait for quiet. The alternative is simple. We continue to exist as an independent power with capabilities that you clearly cannot match. We forge our own alliances, establish our own territories, and pursue our own interests without regard for council concerns. That would be war, Admiral Korath stated flatly. No, Admiral, that would be competition. War is what happens when you try to cage us again. Rodriguez's voice carried absolute conviction. We are offering you the chance to avoid finding out what humanity is truly capable of when we stop holding back. Speaker Illuminus exchanged communications with the other arbitrators for several long minutes. The decision they made would reshape galactic civilization. Very well, the Council will consider your proposal. But understand this, humans. If you betray our trust, if you prove to be the threat we feared, the consequences will be severe. Rodriguez nodded respectfully. We understand completely. But Speaker Illuminus, I should mention that trust works both ways. The galaxy is about to change, whether you work with us or not. I would strongly suggest you choose the path that doesn't make humanity your enemy. As the human delegation departed, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence, every alien present understood that the balance of galactic power had just shifted permanently. The age of human containment was over. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the massive viewport of the human diplomatic vessel Terra's Voice, watching the sprawling space station that housed the Galactic Council. The station stretched for kilometers in every direction, a testament to the combined engineering prowess of dozens of alien civilizations. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its countless ports, their designs as varied as the species that built them. Admiral, we're receiving clearance to dock at Bay 47, reported Lieutenant Commander Harris from the communications station. His voice carried a tension that matched the mood aboard the entire ship. Sarah nodded, her reflection ghosting across the viewport's surface. After 3 years of negotiations, humanity was finally being considered for full membership in the Galactic Council. It should have been a moment of triumph, the culmination of decades of careful diplomacy since first contact. Instead, something felt wrong. The intelligence reports had been troubling. Intercepted communications suggested that several council races viewed humanity as a potential threat. The Zephyrians, with their crystalline forms and hive mind mentality, had openly questioned whether humans were too aggressive for peaceful coexistence. The Velkari Empire, descendants of an aquatic species that had conquered half their home galaxy, whispered about humanity's rapid technological advancement. "Ma'am, Ambassador Rodriguez requests your presence in the briefing room," Harris called out. Sarah made her way through the ship's corridors, noting the subdued atmosphere among the crew. Everyone knew what was at stake. Ambassador Maria Rodriguez had been humanity's primary diplomatic representative to the Council for the past 5 years, working tirelessly to build relationships and trust. The briefing room was small but elegant, designed to accommodate both human and alien physiology for diplomatic meetings. Rodriguez sat at the central table, her usually immaculate appearance showing signs of strain. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights spent reviewing negotiation strategies. "Admiral, thank you for coming," Rodriguez said, gesturing to a chair across from her. "I wanted to discuss our final approach before we dock." Sarah settled into the chair, studying the ambassador's expression. "You look concerned, Maria. Are we walking into something?" Rodriguez activated a small privacy field generator, its soft hum filling the room. "My sources within the council suggest that today's vote won't go as planned. There are rumors of a coordinated effort to not just deny our membership, but to actively restrict our expansion beyond our current solar system." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. "Quarantine us? On what grounds?" "They claim we're too young as a spacefaring civilization, too volatile. Some are calling us the warrior apes from Sol. They point to our history of warfare, our rapid militarization of space technology, our tendency to solve problems through conflict." Rodriguez's voice carried bitter frustration. Sarah leaned back in her chair, processing the implications. Humanity had spent enormous resources on this diplomatic mission. They'd shared technology, opened their worlds to alien observers, and bent over backwards to prove they belonged among the galactic community. The idea that it might all be for nothing was staggering. "What evidence do we have that this isn't just rumor and speculation?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing intercepted communications. "Our intelligence network has been tracking private conversations between council members. The Drakari hegemony has been particularly vocal about containing us. They've apparently convinced at least 6 other major powers to support a containment resolution." The display showed a web of communications between various alien governments. Sarah recognized several species names from the diplomatic briefings. The Thuvalans, known for their philosophical approach to governance. The Corvani Collective, a merger of 3 separate species. Even the normally neutral Ashanti had apparently been swayed by anti-human sentiment. "They're afraid of us," Sarah realized. "They see how quickly we've advanced from barely leaving our planet to building this diplomatic fleet in just 50 years. Exactly. What took most of their civilizations centuries to achieve, we've accomplished in decades. They're not just worried about our military potential. They're concerned about economic and technological competition." Sarah stood and began pacing, her mind racing through possibilities. "If they vote to quarantine us, what are our options? Do we comply and hope to change their minds eventually? That could take generations, if ever. Meanwhile, our expansion into nearby systems would be halted. Our colonies would be isolated. We'd be effectively trapped in a cosmic cage while other civilizations continue to grow and advance." The implications were staggering. Humanity had already established research outposts in 3 nearby systems and had plans for full colonization within the decade. Their faster-than-light communication network was in its infancy, but showed promise for connecting human worlds across vast distances. A council quarantine would doom all of that progress. "There has to be another way," Sarah said. "What if we withdraw our membership application and pursue independent expansion?" Rodriguez shook her head. "They've made it clear that membership or quarantine are the only options. Independent expansion would be viewed as a hostile act. They'd enforce the quarantine with military action if necessary." Sarah felt a cold fury building in her chest. Humanity had approached the galaxy with open hands and honest intentions, only to be met with fear and prejudice. They were being punished for their very success, for daring to advance too quickly for alien comfort. "Admiral, there's something else you need to know," Rodriguez continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I've been in contact with certain elements within Earth's government. There are contingency plans. What kind of contingency plans? The kind that assume this diplomatic mission might fail. Plans that have been in development since we first detected hostile sentiment among council members. Rodriguez's expression was grim. If the vote goes against us today, if they attempt to impose a quarantine, we're not going to simply accept it. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Maria, what exactly has Earth been preparing for? Before Rodriguez could answer, the ship shuddered slightly as it docked with the station. Through the viewport, Sarah could see alien dock workers beginning the connection procedures. In a few hours, they would walk into the council chambers and learn humanity's fate. Get some rest, Admiral, Rodriguez said, standing to leave. Tomorrow, one way or another, everything changes for our species. And if the council thinks they can cage humanity without consequences, they're about to learn just how wrong they are. As the ambassador left the briefing room, Sarah remained staring out at the massive station. Somewhere within those corridors and chambers, alien minds were deciding whether humanity deserved a place among the stars or should be locked away like dangerous animals. The irony wasn't lost on her that they might be right about humans being dangerous, just not in the way they expected. 3 months after humanity's dramatic appearance before the Galactic Council, the political landscape of the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Ambassador Rodriguez stood in the newly constructed human embassy on the council station, watching through the reinforced viewport as alien delegations arrived for what many were calling the most important session in galactic history. The vote on humanity's demands was scheduled for today, and the results would determine whether the galaxy moved toward a new era of cooperation or descended into a conflict that could tear apart millennia of civilization. Status report. Rodriguez requested as Director Harrison entered the embassy's secure conference room. The intelligence network reports mixed developments, Harrison began, activating a holographic display showing current political alignments across council space. The Drakari hegemony is openly advocating for military action against us. They've convinced the Markarian Confederacy and 3 smaller systems to support a declaration of humanity as a galactic threat. Rodriguez studied the display, noting the red zones that indicated hostile territories. That's only about 15% of council membership. What about the rest? The Zephyrian Collective has declared neutrality, which is significant given their previous opposition. The Thuvalan pacifist fleet is actually supporting our admission, apparently deciding that having us inside the council is safer than leaving us outside. The real surprise is the Velkari Empire. Harrison highlighted a section of the galaxy where the Aquatic Empire held sway. Emperor Thalassic has privately indicated support for our proposal. Our surveillance data on their illegal activities has convinced them that cooperation is preferable to exposure. Blackmail is such an ugly word, Rodriguez observed with satisfaction. I prefer to think of it as incentivizing proper behavior. The door chimed, and Admiral Sarah Chen entered wearing the new uniform of Earth's Galactic Defense Force. The military organization had been formally established to coordinate humanity's expanding presence across multiple star systems. Ambassador, the fleet reports are encouraging. Our demonstration yesterday seems to have made an impression on undecided delegates. Rodriguez smiled, remembering the carefully orchestrated show of force that had taken place in the neutral zone between council space and human territory. A single human vessel had engaged and disabled an entire squadron of unmanned target drones using weapons technology that no council scientist could explain. Any reaction from the major powers? The Drakari High Command has increased their military readiness level, but they're being careful not to make any overtly hostile moves, Sarah reported. Our intelligence suggests they're waiting to see the results of today's vote before deciding on their next course of action, Harrison added. We've also detected increased communications between several minor species that previously supported our containment. They're discussing the formation of a human defense coalition to protect themselves from what they see as an emerging human threat. Let them, Rodriguez said calmly. Fear can be as effective as friendship for maintaining peace. As long as they don't actually attack our interests, they're welcome to huddle together for comfort. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the council chamber. Speaker Illuminus was requesting the immediate presence of all human representatives for a preliminary discussion before the formal vote. Rodriguez, Harrison, and Admiral Chen made their way through the station's corridors, noting the increased security presence and the way alien species moved aside as they passed. Word of humanity's capabilities had spread throughout Council space, creating a mixture of fear and grudging respect. The Council chamber had been reconfigured for the historic session. Additional seating had been installed to accommodate representatives from minor species that normally didn't participate in major votes. Everyone understood that today's decision would affect the entire galaxy. Speaker Illuminus called the session to order with unusual formality. Before we proceed to the formal vote on the human proposals, there are matters that require clarification. The massive display at the chamber's center activated, showing detailed star charts of the galaxy's spiral arms. Rodriguez recognized many of the highlighted systems as human colonies that had been established during the supposed containment period. Our analysis indicates that human presence in the galaxy is far more extensive than previously believed, Speaker Illuminus continued. We count over 200 installations across 47 star systems. Many of these are in territories that the Council considered either uninhabited or under our protection. Admiral Korath rose from the Drakari section, his scarred features set in barely controlled rage. The humans have been systematically violating galactic law for years. They have established illegal colonies, exploited resources in protected systems, and ignored our territorial sovereignty. Rodriguez stood calmly, her diplomatic training allowing her to project confidence despite being surrounded by dozens of potentially hostile alien species. Admiral Korath raises an interesting point about sovereignty. Perhaps he could explain under what authority the Council claims the right to designate entire regions of space as off-limits to expanding civilizations. The question struck at the heart of galactic politics. The Council's authority had always been based on consensus among member species, but they had never formally claimed the right to control unclaimed territories. The Council maintains order and stability, Speaker Illuminus replied carefully. Our territorial designations prevent conflicts between expanding civilizations. Yet you seem to have no problem with Valkyrie expansion into the Outer Rim, or Drakari colonization of the neutral zone, Rodriguez countered. Your territorial restrictions appear to apply only to humanity. Murmurs of agreement came from several smaller species that had their own expansion restricted by Council policies. Rodriguez had carefully researched which aliens might be sympathetic to arguments about freedom of expansion. The Thuvalan delegate spoke up, surprising many by supporting the human position. The pacifist fleet has reviewed human colonial activities and found them to be conducted with minimal environmental impact and no exploitation of indigenous species. Their expansion model is actually superior to many Council member practices. Admiral Korath's response was swift and angry. They established these colonies while under containment orders. Their very existence is a violation of Council authority. Admiral, Rodriguez said with dangerous calm, are you suggesting that the Council has the authority to determine which species have the right to expand and which must remain confined to their homeworld? Because that sounds remarkably similar to the imperial policies that the Council was supposedly founded to oppose. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. She was essentially arguing that the Council itself had become the kind of oppressive authority that galactic civilization had been designed to prevent. Speaker Illuminus attempted to regain control of the session. The question before us today is whether humanity can be trusted with membership in the galactic community. Their recent actions suggest aggressive tendencies that Speaker Illuminus, Rodriguez interrupted. With respect, our actions suggest defensive capabilities that we developed in response to illegal containment and planned genocide. We have not attacked any populated worlds. We have not enslaved any species, and we have not attempted to impose our authority on others. Can the same be said for all current Council members? Harrison activated a holographic display that showed evidence of various Council violations of their own laws. The Valkyrie slave trade, Drakari conquest campaigns, Zephyrian forced assimilation, projects, all activities that had been quietly ignored by the Council while humanity was being condemned for self-defense. The choice before this Council is simple, Rodriguez concluded. You can accept humanity as an equal partner in galactic civilization, or you can continue to treat us as a threat to be contained. But understand this, containment is no longer possible. We exist, we will continue to expand, and we will defend ourselves against any attempts to restrict our legitimate rights. The voting session began immediately after the human presentation. As the tally progressed on the chamber's main display, Rodriguez watched the political realignment of galactic civilization unfold in real time. The final vote was closer than expected. 523 votes in favor of human admission to the Council, 387 opposed with 134 abstentions. Humanity had won, but the margin revealed deep divisions that would shape galactic politics for generations to come. Speaker Illuminus announced the results with obvious reluctance. By majority vote, the species known as humans is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. As alien delegates began filing out of the chamber, many avoiding eye contact with the human delegation, Rodriguez felt no sense of triumph. This was not a victory. It was merely the end of the first phase of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. The real test would come in the months and years ahead, as humanity proved whether they deserved their place among the stars or were indeed the threat that so many feared them to be. 1 year after humanity's admission to the Galactic Council, Ambassador Rodriguez stood in her office aboard the newly constructed human diplomatic vessel New Horizon, reviewing the reports that would define humanity's first annual address to the galactic community. Through her viewport, she could see the massive construction project that had transformed the local space. Around the Council Station, humanity's gift to galactic civilization, the Prometheus Gate, hung in space like a metallic flower, its 12 massive arms extending outward in perfect symmetry. Each arm housed quantum communication relays, emergency medical facilities, and defensive systems that could protect the entire Council Station from any conceivable threat. It was humanity's demonstration that their species could be creators as well as warriors. Director Harrison entered the office carrying a data pad filled with the latest intelligence reports. The final numbers are in from across the galaxy. The results are even better than we hoped. Rodriguez accepted the pad, scanning the information with growing satisfaction. Trade agreements with 47 species, technology-sharing partnerships with 23 civilizations, and formal defense pacts with 12 governments. Not bad for a species that was considered too dangerous for galactic citizenship just 2 years ago. The economic impact has been extraordinary, Harrison continued. Human manufacturing techniques have increased productivity by an average of 30% across partner civilizations. Our medical technology has virtually eliminated plague diseases in 3 star systems, and our defensive innovations have prevented 2 interstellar wars. Rodriguez nodded, remembering the crisis 6 months ago, when the Corvani Collective had threatened to invade the Tellurian Commonwealth over resource disputes. Human mediators had diffused the situation in 3 days, something that would have taken the Council months to resolve through traditional diplomatic channels. Any resistance from the old guard? The Drakari hegemony continues to oppose most human initiatives, but they're increasingly isolated. Admiral Korath has been reassigned to frontier patrol duties, and the new Drakari leadership seems more willing to work with us. Harrison's expression turned thoughtful. The real surprise has been the Velkari Empire. They've become one of our strongest allies. Fear is a powerful motivator, Rodriguez observed. They know we have enough surveillance data to expose their activities to the entire galaxy. Cooperation is much safer than confrontation. A communication alert interrupted their discussion. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the wall display, transmitted from the human fleet's command ship in orbit around the Council Station. Ambassador, we're receiving reports from Sector 7. The Ashanti Confederation is under attack by unknown forces. They're requesting immediate assistance under the Mutual Defense Protocols. Rodriguez felt her pulse quicken. This would be the first test of humanity's new role as a galactic security provider. The Ashanti had been among the few species to support human containment initially, but they had become valuable allies after witnessing humanity's capabilities. Do we have any intelligence on the attackers? Long-range sensors are detecting ships of unknown configuration. The energy signatures don't match any known Council technology. We may be looking at a completely new threat. Harrison activated his secure communication device linking into Earth's Strategic Intelligence Network. Initial analysis suggests these might be ships from the Void Realm, the dark matter galaxies beyond the edge of known space. Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. The Void Realm was largely theoretical, a region where conventional matter was scarce and exotic physics ruled. If hostile forces were emerging from that region, it represented a threat beyond anything the galaxy had faced before. Admiral Chen, what's our response capability? The Third Fleet is at maximum readiness. We can have a full battle group at the Ashanti homeworld in 18 hours. The new quantum jump drives will cut travel time by 70% compared to Council ships. Do it. And Admiral, this isn't just about protecting our allies. If there's a new threat emerging from dark space, we need to demonstrate that humanity can defend the galaxy when the Council cannot. As the orders went out to mobilize human forces, Rodriguez reflected on how completely the situation had reversed. 2 years ago, the galaxy had feared humanity as a threat to galactic peace. Now they were being called upon to defend that peace against dangers from beyond known space. The next few hours passed in a blur of communications and preparations. The human fleet departed for Ashanti space with unprecedented speed, their advanced drive systems allowing them to cross distances that would take other species days to traverse. Reports began filtering back within 6 hours. The unknown attackers had surrounded 3 Ashanti colony worlds and were using weapons that seemed to ignore conventional shielding. Entire cities were being vaporized by energy beams that passed through defensive barriers as if they didn't exist. Admiral Chen's tactical reports were disturbing. These ships phase in and out of normal spacetime. Our targeting systems can barely track them, and their weapons appear to operate on principles we don't understand. Rodriguez watched the tactical displays with growing concern. If humanity's advanced technology couldn't effectively engage these attackers, what hope did the rest of the galaxy have? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Prometheus Project scientist, contacted the fleet directly from her research facility on Titan. Admiral Chen, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from the unknown vessels. I believe they're using dark matter manipulation technology to phase between dimensional states. Is there a counter-strategy? Possibly. The quantum weapons we developed for the Council demonstration might be adaptable. If we can modify their frequency signatures to resonate with dark matter, we should be able to target these ships even when they're phased. Within hours, human engineering teams were modifying their weapon systems based on Dr. Vasquez's theoretical work. The solution required precise calibration and real-time adjustments that only human AI systems could manage effectively. The battle for Ashanti Prime became humanity's debut as galactic protectors. Human ships engaged the mysterious attackers using weapons that had been modified on the fly, demonstrating the adaptability and innovation that had made humanity so feared and respected. Admiral Chen's final report was transmitted simultaneously to the Council station and every major government in the galaxy. Unknown vessels neutralized. Ashanti colony secure. Enemy technology analyzed and countermeasures developed. Full tactical data being shared with all Council members. The response from the galactic community was immediate and overwhelming. Governments that had opposed human membership sent formal thanks. Species that had feared human military capabilities now praised their defensive effectiveness. The Council officially recognized humanity as the galaxy's primary defense against external threats. Rodriguez stood once again at her viewport, watching as alien ships arrived to pay respects to the human fleet. The same Admiral Korath who had once tried to enforce humanity's containment now requested permission to study human tactical innovations. "Ma'am," Harrison said, joining her at the viewport, "we're receiving requests for defense partnerships from over 100 species. Even the Drakari High Command wants to discuss joint military exercises." Rodriguez smiled, remembering the fear and hostility that had greeted humanity's first appearance before the Council. It's amazing how attitudes change when people realize you're fighting for them, rather than against them. A priority communication arrived from Earth, and President Sarah Martinez appeared on the wall display. The leader of humanity's united government looked tired but satisfied. "Ambassador, the Global Council has made a decision regarding our future role in galactic politics. Given recent events and the trust that the galaxy has placed in us, we're authorizing the establishment of permanent human peacekeeping forces throughout Council space." Rodriguez felt the weight of history settling around her. Humanity had gone from being caged like dangerous animals to becoming the protectors of galactic civilization. The irony was not lost on her that the Council's initial fear of human aggression had been exactly what made humanity effective defenders against real threats. "Madam President, We'll begin implementing the peacekeeping protocols immediately. And ma'am? I think it's time to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Void Realm. If there are more threats coming from dark space, we need to understand what we're facing. As the communication ended, Rodriguez looked out at the stars that humanity had once been forbidden to explore freely. Now those same stars represented territories under human protection, civilizations that depended on human innovation and military capability for their continued existence. The Galactic Council had betrayed humanity by trying to cage them, fearing what they might become. In the end, they had been absolutely right to be afraid, just not in the way they expected. Humanity had become the dominant force in galactic politics not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that when threatened, humans were capable of anything necessary to protect themselves and their allies. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.